The morning a police officer pressed a gun toward my face and called me a liar, he had no idea he was about to trigger the most expensive mistake of his life. He thought he was bullying another black woman on the side of a highway, patting his ego, and another bogus report, nothing more. He did not know that by cuffing me on that shoulder of cracked asphalt, he was laying his hands on a 3-star United States Army general and lighting up federal alarms from a small town station all the way to the Pentagon. Yeah, that happened. My name is Evelyn Grant, Lieutenant General, United States Army. I've spent more than 2 decades wearing this country on my shoulders. Combat deployments, command positions, rooms where every word is classified and everyone at the table can move battalions with a pen stroke. I have walked through villages where the air tasted like dust and cordite. I have held boys in desert camouflage while medics tried to keep them in this world. I have sat across polished mahogany from men who run nations and told them hard truths. But on Highway 94 that morning, none of that mattered. Not my ribbons, not my record, not my rank. All he saw was a black woman alone in a silver sedan that he decided did not belong to her. It was just after 8 a.m. The sun was coming up bright and low, throwing long gold streaks over the road and across my dashboard, the world looking soft and kind in that way that lies to you. I was headed to a UR-900 briefing at the Pentagon, running through my notes in my head. NATO exercises, joint ops risk assessments, all the quiet moving parts that keep people safe without them ever knowing how close things get. Traffic was light, my speed was steady, no music, no call, no rush, just focus. And then I saw him. One cruiser sliding in behind me. No siren, no flash, just appearing like a bad feeling. At first he hung back, then he crept closer, close enough that I could barely see his push bar in my rear view. I checked my speed dead on, checked my lane position solid, no broken light, no expired tag, nothing. Still he hovered. If you've ever been the wrong color in the right car, you know that weight in your chest. You know what I mean? A mile, 2 miles, 3. He didn't pass. He didn't fall back. He just sat there crowding me. I felt my jaw tighten and I made myself loosen it. This wasn't new. Stars on my shoulder don't make you invisible to a certain kind of eye. All they do is change the paperwork afterward. The lights finally popped on, blue and red strobe pouring through the rear window, splashing over my face. I signaled, eased onto the shoulder, brought the engine to a full stop. Before the tires were done rolling, my hands were planted on the steering wheel at 10 and 2, fingers open. No sudden movements, no excuses. He got out like he was stepping onto a stage. Early 30s, white, built like he lived in the gym, mirrored sunglasses, jaw set. One hand resting lazy but intentional on his gun. That walk said this stop was already a conviction in his head. He came to my window and rapped on the glass harder than he needed to. License and registration. No good morning, no reason, no nothing. Of course, officer, I said, keeping my tone level. May I ask why I'm being stopped? Keep your hands where I can see them, he snapped. I'll ask the questions. His hand twitched on the grip like it wanted an excuse. Pattern interrupt right there. He still hasn't named a violation. My license is in my purse on the passenger seat, I told him slowly. I'm going to reach for it with my right hand. We narrate our movements because sometimes that's the only armor we get. He gave a little chin jerk. I moved calm, opened the purse, took out my driver's license and my military ID together. If you saw that card, you'd know what it is. That laminate is not from a print shop on Main Street. Full holograms, microprint, embedded chip, my photo, my rank Lieutenant General, United States Army. I handed both over. He glanced at the driver's license board. Then he saw the ID. Really saw it. I watched his brain hit a speed bump. His mouth tightened. His shoulders squared a little. 3 stars meant I outranked everyone in his world, and he did not like that picture with my face in it. You think I'm stupid, he said with this nasty little laugh. He held the ID up like a joke. You know it's a federal crime to fake one of these, right? There is nothing fake about it, I said, meeting his eyes. I'm Lieutenant General Evelyn Grant. I'm stationed at the Pentagon. I'm on my way to a briefing. If you have doubts, there's a verification line on the back of that card. Call it, he snorted. Pentagon, right, and I'm the Secretary of Defense. He looked me up and down like he was confirming I didn't match whatever picture he had in his head. Officer, I said, my voice cooling. I'm strongly advising you to verify my credentials before you continue. He stepped in closer. I don't need to call anybody. I know what I'm looking at. Step out of the vehicle. On what grounds? Impersonating a federal officer, fraudulent ID, suspicious behavior. He layered it on like extra sauce. Step out or I'm adding resisting. That whatever else I decide attitude, that's when it stopped being ignorance and became intent. If it were you in that seat, what would you have done? Kept arguing, gone silent. I turned the engine fully off, put my keys on the dash where he could see them, open the door slowly, one hand still high. Stepped out in my red blazer, pressed slacks, low heels, the picture of a professional on her way to work. He didn't care. Turn around, hands behind your back. He barked louder now, performing for the cars starting to slow as they passed. Officer, I am advising you again to call and verify my... Turn around. I turned. The cuffs came down tight, cutting skin. Phones came up along the shoulder. People recording. Good, I thought. Let them. Under my breath, I logged it the way we've been trained to in actual war zones. Officer Michael Brooks, badge 4387, Highway 94 eastbound, approx. 810. He jerked me around. What are you mumbling? Details for my report, I said. He sneered. Your report, lady, you're headed to a cell. The only report is mine, and it's going to say you resisted, you threatened me, you tried to run. He already had his story. Reality was optional. He shoved me into the back of the cruiser. Through the glass, I caught my own reflection. Cuffed, controlled, angry, but not broken. And yeah, for a second it hit me. I have walked through incoming fire. I have cleared villages. I have briefed presidents. And here I am in the back of a county car because a man with a badge can't accept that a black woman can wear 3 stars. He slid behind the wheel, radioed it in casual. Unit 47-1 in custody, suspected impersonation of federal officer, fraudulent ID. No mention of my rank, no mention I asked him to verify. He left that out. Convenient. What he didn't factor in was that my life is wired to alarms. When a general with access to certain rooms does not show up where she's supposed to be, systems start asking questions. Schedules and GPS logs do not lie to make him comfortable. So while he was driving me to his station feeling like a hero, people in D.C. were looking at screens saying, "Why has General Grant's signal stopped at a county detention facility? Stick around because what happened next will blow your mind." The Riverside County station was small, old brick scuffed floors, fluorescent lights humming overhead. He walked me into booking like a trophy he couldn't wait to display. Sergeant Olivia Garcia sat behind the desk flipping through paperwork. Late 40s, steady eyes posture of somebody who has seen everything twice. She clocked me the cuffs, the blazer, the look on his face all in one breath. "What do we have?" she asked. "Impersonating a federal officer, fake military ID, resisting," Brooks said quickly, sliding my ID across like Exhibit A in his victory dance. Garcia picked it up, turned it under the lamp. The holograms popped exactly how they're supposed to. She checked the print, the chip, the seal. Her eyebrows moved just barely. "Ma'am," she said to me, "name and rank." "Lieutenant General Evelyn Grant, United States Army," I answered. "Service number ending 156, Pentagon assignment. I was en route to a 0900 briefing when Officer Brooks initiated the stop." That right there is how real credentials sound. No stutter, no story building. Just facts ingrained too deep to fake. "Brooks," she said, "have you verified this?" "I don't need to verify it," he snapped. "I've seen fakes. She's good, but she's not that good." Her eyes narrowed. She didn't like that answer. Before she could push more, one of the desk phones rang sharp. Garcia picked up. "Riverside County?" "Yes." "This is Sergeant Garcia." She paused. "General who?" Her eyes lifted to me and stayed there. "Yes, sir. She's here." She listened, jaw tightening, then understood. She hung up. "That was Pentagon security," she said into the suddenly quiet room. "They are looking for Lieutenant General Evelyn Grant. GPS shows her last at Highway 94 and now inside this building." Brooks forced a laugh. "It's a scam. They spoof calls. I'm not buying that." "Brooks," Garcia said carefully, "we need to halt booking and verify, now." He shook his head, digging in. "No, until I see something official, she's in custody." He wasn't defending procedure, he was defending his pride. 5 minutes later, the front doors flew open and Chief Arthur Dawson rushed in, face red tie, crooked phone in his fist. "Where is she?" he demanded. "At booking," Garcia said. "You haven't processed her yet, have you?" Officer Brooks was just about to... "I told you," Brooks cut in. "She's under arrest on multiple charges. I am not letting her walk because someone makes a prank call." Dawson turned on him, voice suddenly low and deadly. "I just spoke with the Pentagon, the FBI, and the governor's office. They have confirmed there is a Lieutenant General Evelyn Grant, 3 stars missing from a classified briefing last tracked to your stop." "Sir, she can't be a general, she..." He started, then stopped himself. "She what, Brooks?" the chief asked. We all knew. He didn't have to say it for it to be true. Garcia came around the desk with the key. "General," she said softly, already correcting herself. "I'm so sorry. Let me get those off you." The cuffs opened. The pain in my wrists eased. The anger didn't. "Chief Dawson," I said, looking him in the eye, "I appreciate your intervention, but I need you to understand the damage is already done. I was detained and transported after providing valid federal ID and offering direct verification. That is not just a policy issue. That is a federal one, and those wheels are already turning. Like I scripted it, the doors behind him opened again, and in walked men and women in suits and jackets with bold letters that changed the temperature of a room. FBI, military police, federal. Agent Daniel Carter stepped forward, professional but not performative. "General Grant, ma'am." He nodded with respect, then turned to Dawson. "We are here regarding the unlawful detention of a United States Army general. We'll need full access to your footage logs and personnel." Brooks went pale for the first time. They pulled the dash cam video. They replayed him mocking my ID, refusing verification, escalating without cause. They watched the booking room tape where Garcia questioned where he ignored. They read his report drafts where I apparently resisted and made threats that never happened on camera. It was enough right then for civil rights charges, enough to end a career. But the thing about real investigations is when you pull one thread, you find out what it was holding up. They went back through his record, stop after stop, arrest after arrest. Black drivers, Latino drivers, young men, women like me. Same vague, suspicious language. Same aggressive escalation. Use of force way out of proportion. Complaints filed all unsubstantiated by the same internal people over and over. He wasn't new. He was a pattern no one wanted to see. Then the financial crimes folks laid their pages on the table. That was the moment this story flipped from ugly to dangerous. They had traced payments. Consulting, off-duty security, data services, from a handful of private investigation firms and defense-related companies into Brooks's accounts. Little bites, 500 here, 1,000 there. The dates lined up with specific arrests and detentions of people connected to the military, off-duty soldiers, contractors, officers, often minorities, often alone. Why does a local cop get extra cash every time he puts his hands on someone in uniform? When they followed the money upstream, some of those firms pointed toward defense competitors, and some of those competitors had overseas partners with a taste for American secrets. It wasn't clean, it wasn't simple, but it was enough to set off every alarm in the counterintelligence world. Here was the twist. Brooks, the racist cop who couldn't accept a black woman with 3 stars, had been quietly serving as a doorway. Through him, through his extended bookings and invasive questions, through copied IDs and notes about units and clearances, information about U.S. military personnel had been dripping out to people who had absolutely no right to it. Was he reading foreign briefs, playing chess 2 moves ahead? No. He was greedy, predictable, and easily used. But legally, morally, it didn't matter whether he understood the full picture. He took money to target and collect on service members. In my world, there's a word for that. So they came back for him. This time the cuffs were federal. "Officer Michael Brooks," Agent Carter said, voice steady. "You are under arrest for conspiracy to violate civil rights, deprivation of rights under color of law, assault, and unlawful detention of a federal officer, and participation in an intelligence collection scheme targeting members of the United States military. These include espionage-related offenses." Brooks tried to laugh it off. "Espionage, I was just doing my job. I thought it was corporate background work." "Your job is to uphold the law," Carter answered, "not to sell information about soldiers to whoever deposits in your account." They had his notebook, names, ranks, units, notes on security clearances, and families all pulled from people he'd booked a little too long. They had his texts with middlemen. They had the timing of payments. They had me in that car telling him exactly who I was while he decided he knew better. If you were sitting on that jury looking at all that, what would you have said? The trial was public. They played the footage of me on the side of the highway calm while he escalated. They put other victims on the stand. A sergeant he pinned for failure to signal, then tore apart in a parking lot. A black Navy officer he called boy before slamming him on a hood. A Latina intel analyst whose base pass and work ID somehow ended up photographed in his personal phone. The pattern was clear, so was the intent. The jury convicted him on almost everything. Civil rights violations, false imprisonment, conspiracy, espionage-linked charges. The judge did not go light. Life in federal prison, no parole. Other officers who played along took decades. The supervisor who buried complaints got his time. The private operatives who moved the cash got theirs. A couple of foreign businessmen quietly left the country after their names showed up in sealed attachments. On paper, it's satisfying. The bad guys lose, the general wins, the flag waves. But life is not a movie that neat. In the fallout, the Riverside Department went under a microscope. Federal oversight, new leadership. Garcia, the one who spoke up, eventually took the chief's job. They rewrote policies, put cameras where there were none, brought in community oversight with bite. Numbers started shifting in the right direction. Fewer stops without cause. Fewer "I felt threatened" reports against unarmed people. More trust. Nationally, my case was used to build what some folks now call the Grant Protocol. If a service member reports being harassed, profiled, or detained under sketchy circumstances, it doesn't vanish into a drawer. It gets flagged at a federal level, cross-checked against patterns. You grab the wrong soldier for the wrong reason now, and you're not just hoping your captain has your back. You're on a lot of people's radar. All that is good. I won't pretend it isn't. But here's the part that bothers me, and maybe it'll bother you too. I got that response because I am who I am in the system. I had 3 stars and direct lines that light up when I'm late. My ID screamed loud enough that they couldn't ignore it. What if I had been Specialist Grant instead, or Ms. Grant's school teacher driving home? No briefing, no classified access, just a woman on the highway with the wrong face for the right car. Do you honestly believe it would have turned into a federal reckoning then? Or would it have stayed an ugly story between friends? Another video nobody in power wanted to watch. Do you think that's fair? I'm telling you this not so you can say, look, the system works. It worked loud this time because it embarrassed the right people. I'm telling you because one man's racism and arrogance made him easy to recruit, easy to steer, easy to turn into a tool against the same country he claimed to serve. And he didn't pop out of nowhere. He was allowed to grow there. So now I'm going to put it to you. If you were in my passenger seat that day, watching him, hearing him, seeing those cuffs come out after I'd done everything right, what would you have told me to do? Be quieter, be nicer, fight harder. Just trust the process. Still sound like good advice. If you've lived a smaller version of this, pulled over for looking out of place, talked down to searched because your name or your skin or your car didn't fit, I want you to share that. Not for trauma points, but because these patterns only stay invisible when we shut up about them. Tell me in the comments if you think his sentence was enough, too soft, too harsh. Tell me if you buy the reforms or if you see them as damage control. If you wear a badge and you've seen a Brooks in your ranks, I want to know what you did about it or what stopped you. And if this story hit you, made you mad, made you hopeful, made you uncomfortable in a way you can't quite shake, do something simple but real hit, like so it gets in front of people who need to hear it. Share it with that one person who still thinks profiling is just people being dramatic, and subscribe if you want more than clean fairy tale endings, if you want the messy truth from people who've actually lived it. Because your voice matters here. The next time someone like him walks up to a window convinced he already knows the ending, I want him to be very, very wrong about who is watching.